Kylo Ren is trying anything he can do to suppress his inner Ben Solo. But it ain't working. Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Star Wars Character Study. In this series, we take a deep dive into certain characters of the Star Wars franchise and try to analyze them both psychologically and narratively. My name is the Goldman, and today we're going to be talking about Ben Solo, aka Kylo Ren, from the Star Wars sequel trilogy.
The mighty Kylo Ren.
Kylo Ren is one of the most misunderstood characters from the Star Wars franchise because there are so many layers to him. Even though he is from the sequels, there seems to be a lot of appreciation for the character. More! What about Kylo Ren is so appealing to everyone, even sequel haters? For one, you cannot deny the brilliant acting of Adam Driver. He pretty much steals every scene he is in, and the fact that he is in Star Wars is nuts. For me, Kylo Ren is so fascinating because of how complicated he is, and how he's a big fan of destroying the like button for the YouTube algorithm. Star Wars is usually simple when it comes to its stories and characters. People like to say Kylo Ren is a knockoff Darth Vader, but if you just compare Darth Vader and not Anakin to Kylo Ren is a far more complex character. I actually want to begin this video talking about the concept of Kylo Ren. It's obvious that from the start, J.J. Abrams wanted to create something very similar to The Force Awakens. Rey is the Luke figure, Han is the Obi-Wan figure, BB-8 is the R2 figure, Snoke is the Palpatine figure, Kylo Ren is the Darth Vader figure, Starkiller Base is the Death Star, the First Order is the Empire, the Resistance is the Rebellion, and you get the point. Back in like 2013 and 2014, there was this expectation that the sequel trilogy would have to live up to the original trilogy, and that's borderline impossible. People would ask if the villain of these movies could be just as great and just as intimidating as Darth Vader was. And I think that's where the brilliance of Kylo Ren comes into play. It's impossible to create a villain more iconic than Darth Vader. So what if you create a villain that wants to be like Darth Vader so bad but struggles immensely and is wildly insecure about that? Well, there's your foundation for Kylo Ren. When I start to cover most of his scenes, you'll realize that the root of all of his problems stem from the past. Kylo Ren's number one goal in these movies is to bury his Skywalker bloodline. He wants to form his own identity and remove himself from any attachment he may have to the past.
Let the past die. Kill it, if you have to.
This is actually very common in people with serious familial issues. Oftentimes, just in spite of a person's family, they'll become the very thing that that family hates the most. Kylo is thinking to himself, my family were the heroes of the rebellion and are symbols for good. Fine, I'm gonna become the face of the new empire and a symbol for evil. And this is the crux of the inner conflict within Kylo Ren. Ben Solo is not an evil person, but he wants to be so badly. But why? Why does Ben Solo want to be so evil? Why does he hate his family so much? Before we look at the beginning of The Force Awakens, I want to look at the hints throughout the trilogy as to what happened in his past. There's the infamous scene in The Last Jedi, sure, but I want to travel even beyond that. The main cause of Kylo Ren's descent into darkness is his relationship to his parents. Ben Solo was once a happy child, a boy who loved his mother and father. According to the Last Jedi visual dictionary, Ben Solo really wanted to be like his father. He admired his father. He loved Han Solo. He even loved those dice that we see at the end of The Last Jedi. But the first incident that led to Ben Solo turning to the dark side was when his parents shipped him off to Luke. Leia in The Force Awakens tells Han this.
There's too much Vader in him.
That's why I wanted him to train with Luke. I just never should have sent him away. That's when I lost him.
And Kylo tells Rey this in The Last Jedi.
Your parents threw you away like garbage.
They didn't.
They did, but you can't stop needing them.
From his own words, Kylo Ren feels his parents threw him away like garbage. Leia had sensed the growing darkness in young Ben Solo, and she felt what was best for him was to send him to Luke. While we see it as a mother and father trying to help their son, Ben saw it as his parents being scared of him and his parents seeing him as a monster. Ben Solo didn't want to go to Luke. He wanted the love of his parents, but to him, his parents saw him as a monster that needed to be shipped off to Uncle Luke. The specifics as to what happened with Ben Solo and Luke while they were training are not available to us, but we do know a few things. Most importantly, Palpatine was serving as a negative voice inside his head.
I have been every voice you have ever heard inside your head.
Palpatine likely constantly fed Kylo Ren's insecurities. Next, we know that Snoke was a mentor to Ben. How this relationship formed, we have no idea. And lastly, the incident at the Jedi Temple. When Kylo tells Rey what happened that night, he might not be telling the entire truth, but I don't think he's lying to her.
He had sensed my power, as he senses yours, and he feared it.
I genuinely believe that he thinks Luke tried to kill him. From Ben's point of view, his parents shipped him off because of his power, his uncle tried to kill him because of his power, and as shown in one of the comics, all of his peers saw him as the evil person who killed Master Luke. I genuinely believe Ben Solo does not want to be evil, but after so many people saw him as a monster, including his parents, from his point of view, one day he just snapped. Ben Solo was more so pushed to the dark side than he did fall on his own. Palpatine and Snoke definitely gaslighted him and groomed him for years.
The Supreme Leader is wise.
Snoke is using you for your power. When he gets what he wants, he'll crush you.
After all his mentors saw him as a monster, the only one who accepted him was Snoke. So by the time of The Force Awakens, his family, his parents have caused him so much pain that he wants nothing to do with them anymore. This is where his struggle with the light side comes into play. Deep down, Kylo Ren knows his parents love him, and deep down he loves his parents, but he was so hurt by them that he uses the dark side as a way to cure his pain. This is why he wants to let the past die. The only thing that's keeping him from committing to the dark side 100% is his family. And if he can kill the past, then all of his pain will be gone. At least so he thinks. When we see him in the beginning of The Force Awakens, he has gone full-on Vader fanboy.
This is so cool! You're my inspiration!
He wears an entire black suit and, more importantly, a mask. Some critics would say that Kylo Ren's appearance is just a ripoff of Darth Vader, but there's so much more to it than that. Kylo Ren wears this outfit because he wants to suppress Ben Solo as much as he can. He believes that if he can act like Darth Vader, then he can become as entrenched in the dark side as he was. But as we see, Kylo Ren is no Darth Vader. In Kylo Ren's first scene, he runs into a man he clearly knows from the past. He's trying to get information out of him about the whereabouts of Luke, but all the old man does is bring up his connection to his family.
I know where you come from. Before you called yourself Kylo Ren. First Order rose from the dark side. You did not, but you cannot deny the truth. That is your family.
Finally, Kylo Ren has had enough and rashly kills him.
You are so right.
This was a stupid move by Kylo. For all he knows, Lor San Tekka, the old man, is the only person who knows where the map to Luke Skywalker is, and he just killed him. In reality, he's lucky Poe showed up. But remember, Kylo Ren wants to kill the past, and this man knows everything about Kylo Ren's past. So while stupid, it is entirely in Kylo Ren's character to murder this man. For a while, we just see Kylo do more evil things to try and get the map to Luke. We get to see his first temper tantrum, which perfectly shows his insecurities. But he is alarmed by the mention of a girl.
The two were accompanied by a girl.
What girl?
When The Force Awakens came out, a lot of people speculated that the reason why he said
What girl?
was because he knew the identity of Rey and he knew who Rey was. But I believe it has more to do with this.
There's been an awakening. Have you felt it?
Yes.
Kylo Ren has sensed that there is an awakening in the Force. And to me at least, that is why he had the reaction to hearing about a girl.
The droid we seek is aboard the Millennium Falcon, in the hands of your father, Han Solo.
He means nothing to me.
Bullshit!
Throughout the early part of The Force Awakens, it is obvious that he is still struggling with the light side. He even says as much when he is talking to Vader's helmet.
I feel it again. The pull to the light.
Kylo Ren is trying anything he can do to suppress his inner Ben Solo. But it ain't working. Moving on from his insecurities about the past, I do want to talk about his relationship to Rey for a bit. It's hard to describe in this movie how he views Rey. At this point, he's treated everyone besides Snoke as someone who is beneath him.
How capable are your soldiers, General?
I won't have you question my methods.
They're obviously skilled at committing high treason.
But once he meets Rey, he treats her with an ounce of respect, it seems. She's probably the first person besides Snoke to see his face in a very long time.
Don't be intimidated, Squidward. Try to imagine him in his underwear. Oh no, he's hot!
I think Kylo Ren knows that the awakening he and Snoke sensed was Rey. That's why it always grabs his attention when a girl is mentioned.
The droid was spotted heading west with a girl.
I think he's more curious about Rey at first than anything. Based on The Last Jedi, he clearly doesn't know about their bond, so I believe he knows she has a role to play, he just doesn't know what that is yet.
You're afraid that you will never be as strong as Darth Vader.
The acting in this scene is fantastic, but it must have been so awkward to film. Simply from body language and little facial expressions, we see the power shift from Kylo to Rey in a matter of moments. Rey being able to read Kylo Ren's inner thoughts scares the crap out of him. This whole movie, he has always been the one who is in charge, and for the first time this movie, someone else gains the upper hand. And Rey reveals part of Kylo Ren's insecurity. He's scared he will never be as strong as Darth Vader. But why? Because he still feels the pull from the light side because of his parents. This girl he just met was able to read his mind. So while that scares the hell out of him, he knows she is special.
Ben!
I believe this scene right here with Han's death is the most important scene in Kylo Ren's story. More important than anything with Rey, more important than anything with Luke, more important than anything with Leia. This, I think, is his most important scene. For the first time in God knows how long, Kylo Ren is confronted with his father. The person he once loved so much, but also the person who has caused him so much pain. Scenes like this really do show how great of an actor Adam Driver is. Some may say that Kylo Ren is like Vader, but he's infinitely more akin to Anakin. We saw this in Anakin, and we see it in Kylo. When they are on the dark side, there's this rejection of the person they once were.
I've accepted the truth that you were once Anakin Skywalker, my father.
That name no longer has any meaning for me.
Kylo Ren is trying to bury Ben Solo. So he says things like, your son was weak, and your son is gone.
Your son, he's gone. He was weak and foolish, like his father. So I destroyed him.
Anakin Skywalker was weak. I destroyed him.
The brilliance of Adam Driver's line delivery is highlighted in this scene. With Vader in Rebels, you can tell he's much more confident in himself. Kylo Ren is not. When Han is on the bridge with him, I don't think Kylo knows what he's going to do yet. Yes, he wants to kill his father, but for him, that's still a very hard thing to do.
I'm being torn apart. I want to be free of this pain. I know what I have to do, but I don't know if I have the strength to do it. Will you help me?
Yes, anything.
Kylo Ren's attachment to the light brings him pain, and that's at least how I read this scene. In that moment, he believes that if he can kill his father, he will be fully entrenched in the dark side, and that pain will no longer exist, and he goes through with it. For a moment there, I think it worked. I think for a moment, he fully felt embraced in the dark side when he says thank you. I know I've said this is the most important scene, but what happens next, I think, is the single most important moment in his entire story. I think Kylo wants his parents to hate him because if his parents don't love him, then it will be easier for him to turn to the dark side. For the longest time, Kylo has felt hurt by his parents. He thinks they see him as a monster, and that's why they shipped him off to Luke. In the last moments of Han's life, in the last moment of him being a father, Han doesn't show anger or hate towards his son, he shows him love. Han is basically telling Kylo, I may be hurt, I may be disappointed, but I'm your father, and there is nothing you can do to make me stop loving you. God, that's powerful. And in that moment right there, you can tell Kylo knew he made a mistake. His face he makes afterwards is not a face of evil or relief, but a face of pain. The worst thing happened to Kylo. Kylo thought for the longest time his parents didn't love him, but even at his worst, his father still loved him. Kylo realizes he was wrong, and everything he thought he knew about his past was wrong. Beautiful, beautiful scene. I've made countless videos about why I think it makes sense that Rey beat Kylo in this scene. All I'll say here is that the biggest reason why Kylo lost has nothing to do with Rey, but everything to do with Kylo. Kylo thought killing his father would make him stronger, but as I explained before, it didn't. Not only did the act not make him stronger, but it made him significantly weaker. When a Force user is conflicted, that is when they're at their weakest. Kylo Ren was heavily conflicted, and thus was not able to tap into the dark side, like Rey was able to. We see Kylo attempt to make himself stronger with the dark side by hitting his wounds, but because of the trauma of killing his father, it didn't work. Kylo Ren loses the fight and totally embarrasses himself. And that's Kylo Ren's story in The Force Awakens, so let's move on.
Where's Han?
Side note, I love this transition. Luke asks, where's Han? Boom. That's what happened to Han. I love how the scar on Kylo Ren's face is in the exact same spot where Han touched him. I mentioned when talking about The Force Awakens how that hand touch would haunt Kylo until the Rise of Skywalker, and it is also literally a scar now. Subtle things like that are why I love this film.
How's your wound?
It's nothing.
The following conversation between Snoke and Kylo serves to do two things. One, confirmation about why Kylo lost to Rey in The Force Awakens. The other is to establish their abusive relationship.
Alas, you're no Vader. You're just a child in a mask.
If Snoke is an abusive mentor, then why does Kylo stay with him? I think at first it's because Snoke can teach Kylo how to embrace the dark side.
Supreme Leader, I can get the map from the girl. I just need your guidance.
Kylo's insecure self from The Force Awakens definitely needed a mentor like Snoke. One thing I've noticed in this film is that Kylo Ren has really matured in this film compared to The Force Awakens. In The Force Awakens, Kylo seemed to be more emo and bratty. In The Last Jedi, Kylo seems more calm and more angry as opposed to being whiny. I think after this conversation with Snoke, Kylo Ren is motivated to kill him. Before he was still conflicted about killing his father, now he has shifted all of his focus into his hatred for Snoke. I think what this scene accomplishes is the same thing that the Han face touch accomplished. It's obvious that Kylo and Leia can sense each other. When Han touched Kylo's face, it was his way of telling his son he would always love him. When Kylo connected with his mother, she expressed the same thing. Even after her son murdered her husband, Leia understands how important it is that she lets Ben know she still loves him. And because of this, Kylo cannot pull the trigger. When she does get blown out of the brig, you can tell Kylo is hurt by this. I actually wish we got a scene where Kylo realized that his mother was still alive. I mean, think about it. Kylo must believe that his mother is dead at first. So at some point, he must have realized that she was still alive. I would have loved to see Kylo's reaction to that. I wish people appreciated how brilliant the Force bond is. Rian Johnson needed a way to get Kylo and Rey to communicate without them trying to kill each other. Usually in other movies, they'll have the villain captured so when the hero talks to them, they don't feel threatened.
I'm just ahead of the curve.
It was smart that the first thing Rian Johnson established here was that they can't hurt each other. Rey can't shoot Kylo with her blaster, and Kylo can't freeze Rey with the Force. In this movie, every little line of dialogue means something, and every little detail means something.
You're not doing this. The effort would kill you.
Can you see my surroundings?
You're gonna pay for what you did.
I can't see yours.
A good portion of Kylo's scenes in this movie are just Force bonds, and considering Kylo doesn't wear his helmet in any of them, we get an understanding of what his goals are and what he's feeling around Rey. The first Force bond really just establishes the rules of the dyad, but once we get to the second and third Force bond scene, then we really start to learn a lot about these characters. It's insane how in 3 conversations we go from this
murderous snake
to this. Let's take a look at the second Force bond scene.
Why is the Force connecting us? You and I.
Murderous snake. You're too late. You lost. I found Skywalker.
Oh, this scene is so brilliant. Rey has every reason to show nothing but hostility to Kylo, so she tries to rub it in that she basically beat him to finding Luke and how he lost from The Force Awakens. But remember, Kylo is fascinated by Rey. He knows she is special, but barely knows anything about her. Kylo is not wasting any time. He wants to know how much Rey knows.
Did he tell you what happened? The night I destroyed his temple, did he tell you why?
I know everything I need to know about you.
I said this in the first part of the video. Kylo genuinely believes he was wronged by his family. When he tells Rey about the night at the temple, I don't think he's lying. I think that's how he saw Luke that night. Kylo's thinking to himself, everyone from my past thinks I'm a monster. Here comes this girl that doesn't know my past. Can I get her to see things from my perspective? Kylo knows that Luke wouldn't tell Rey what really happened. And I think he also knows that Rey wouldn't be happy with Luke if she knew the truth. Everyone thinks Kylo is a monster and he just wants one person to see things from his perspective.
I know everything I need to know about you.
You do? You do.
When he says, "Oh, you do," God, he's saying so much more than just 3 words. Rey is just like everyone else. She thinks he is a monster, but he knows Rey knows crap about anything. Some may look at these scenes as Kylo trying to manipulate Rey, but I don't see it that way. When I think of manipulation, I think of Palpatine with Anakin. Palpatine clearly had no interest in the well-being of Anakin. He just wanted Anakin for his power. Kylo cares for Rey. He knows she is special and he wants her to understand his pain. And since she is not someone from his past, there's a bit of a clean slate with her. There's a better chance that he can get her to understand over anyone else. The last line of the scene again just shows how brilliant of an actor Adam Driver is.
You called me a monster.
You are a monster.
Yes, I am.
Every line of dialogue between these two has so much subtext. Rey tells Kylo he is a monster, and the pain in his response just says so much about the character. Again, everyone's been telling him that he's a monster, and this one hurts just as much as the others. Everything about this line just shows how conflicted he is. And Rey's response is one of surprise. I think now she starts to realize there is more to Kylo than what she previously thought. Which leads us to the next and best Force bond scene.
Why did you hate your father? Do you have something, a cowl or something you can put on?
It needs to be said how much of a power move being shirtless is right now. Just think about it. If Kylo were to actually put on a shirt when Rey told him to, that would make him such a bitch. Kylo just standing there shirtless shows extreme confidence, and you gotta respect that.
Why did you kill him? I don't understand.
No, your parents threw you away like garbage.
They didn't.
They did, but you can't stop needing them.
This conversation is so crucial to the development of their relationship. Kylo is explaining his pain to Rey in a way that she would understand. Rey's biggest insecurity is her being abandoned by her parents. She understands what it feels like. Kylo, while not abandoned in the same way that Rey was, still feels that same pain. Another thing that's fascinating about this scene is that I feel like each character realizes they wish they were in the other person's shoes. Rey wishes she had parents that loved her the way Han and Leia loved Ben, and Kylo wishes that he had what Rey has, a family not famous like the Skywalkers. Although her family ends up being the Palpatines, but he doesn't know that yet. When Rey says she doesn't understand, Kylo's basically like, you should understand. We both went through the same thing.
Did he tell you what happened that night?
Yes.
No.
I love the way he says no. Kylo knows that Rey would be more empathetic if she knew the truth. So when she says yes, he can just tell she doesn't know what happened. At least what happened from his point of view. I've said this before, I don't think Kylo is lying to Rey. I believe this is how it happened to him, and Rey, by the way she says liar, knows that at least he is telling his truth.
Let the past die. Kill it, if you have to. That's the only way to become what you were meant to be.
This line is essential to understanding the character of Kylo Ren, and no, it is not the theme of the movie. Kylo believes that everyone from his past is holding him back from the dark side. Rey isn't from his past, and that is why he wants to get close to her. Rey is clearly moved by this conversation because afterwards she goes straight to the dark cave. And then right afterwards we get the next Force Bond scene.
I'd never felt so alone.
You're not alone.
Neither are you.
What's happening is pretty clear now. Rey feels that Kylo understands what she's going through, so she's going to open up to him. And again, I don't think Kylo's manipulating her. I think right now he genuinely cares for Rey. The hand touch just solidifies their connection. I know it's a controversial topic, but Reylo needs to be addressed. Do they have a romantic connection? I don't know, and honestly, I don't think it's that important. Regardless of whether or not they see each other romantically, there is no doubt they care about each other. To Kylo, Rey is the only person who understands him, so it makes sense that he goes through all of this effort to try and bring her to his side.
You will not bow before Snoke. He'll turn. I'll help you.
There's nothing really deep during this elevator scene, but man, Rey has no problem getting close to Kylo. For most of this next scene, Kylo just sits there and doesn't say anything. But there are a few details you may or may not have missed. This is a small detail I honestly didn't notice until like the 20th time I've watched this film. When this scene begins, Kylo definitely had the intention of killing Snoke, but he has no clue how he's going to do it. When the lightsaber comes flying and lands right in front of him spinning, I think that is when he got the idea to kill Snoke with the other lightsaber. He saw a spinning saber on the ground and thought to himself, let me go spin the other saber and kill Snoke. If you think about it, that's a very Han Solo type of thing to do. Go into a dangerous situation just 100% winging it. It shows that Ben really is Han's son. There isn't much to really talk about with the actual fight with the guards. I mean, it's a great fight. But man, am I obsessed with the conversation they have right afterwards. I love how the first thing Kylo does is walk up to the dead body of Snoke. This man has probably been Kylo's abuser for years now, and finally Kylo Ren was able to kill him. I know they're technically not Sith, but it is every Darksider's dream to kill their master and take over as the master. And Kylo's the first person to do that since Palpatine killed Plagueis.
It's time to let old things die. Snoke, Skywalker, the Sith, the Jedi, the Rebels, let it all die.
Here, he's just repeating what he told her earlier. By killing the past, Kylo can finally become the Darksider he wants to be. By killing Snoke, he definitely feels more ready to move on from the past than ever. All he wants now is the one person he cares about to be on his side.
They were nobody.
They were filthy junk traders who sold you off for drinking money.
Now, while I do think he has good intentions, what he's doing is definitely very manipulative. It's a very common tactic for abusive people in relationships to put the other person down and make them feel worthless. Kylo literally tells Rey she is nothing, and he knows that she's already in a very vulnerable state. By telling Rey that her parents are no one, he's hoping that she will see him as the belonging that she seeks, not her parents. But the way he says please shows that even though he may be manipulative, he 100% cares about her and wants what he thinks is best for her. But I think after that conversation, Rey realizes that there is good left in Kylo Ren, but he's not ready for her. Rey is saying to herself, I know that Kylo can be good again, but he needs to figure this out on his own. When he is ready, I will join him, but until then, I will not. And the fact that Rey doesn't kill him when they are both passed out shows that she has hope for him. She's disappointed for sure, but I don't think she hates him or anything.
We have no ruler!
The Supreme Leader is dead.
There's nothing deep to analyze here, but man, can we appreciate how cool this scene is? I feel like Kylo is definitely coming into his own here, and I love it. For a while, all we get is Kylo yelling and some fantastic memes.
Blow that piece of junk out of the sky! All fighters!
But let's talk about his reaction to seeing Luke.
I want every gun we have to fire on that man.
As someone whose favorite character is Luke Skywalker, I love how much respect Kylo has for him. This is Luke mother bleeping Skywalker. You bet you're gonna need 10 tanks firing all at once to take him out. I love that.
Did you come back to say you forgive me? To save my soul? No.
There's something very important about the way Luke talks to Kylo in this scene. Luke is going out there knowing that he cannot bring Kylo back to the light side, but that doesn't mean he thinks Kylo is lost to the dark side forever. If Luke had said there was no hope for Kylo, then I would think he was out of character. Luke felt he could redeem his father because he was his son, and he could feel that his father was conflicted. Luke is Ben's uncle. While he may acknowledge that there is hope for Ben, he realizes that he cannot be the one to redeem him. Luke can't be the one to save him, so all he can do right now is stall for the resistance and hope that he makes the right decision one day. I've heard some people say that Kylo should have known that Luke was a hologram because he saw the Skywalker saber get destroyed. Just remember that in the previous movie, Kylo spent the whole film trying to find the location of Luke, and now out of the blue, Luke just walks onto the battlefield. Of course he's going to be distracted, and in true Jedi fashion, Luke is able to distract Kylo long enough so the resistance can escape. Rey rejecting Kylo here, to me, says the same thing that she felt when she was on the Supremacy. She doesn't hate Kylo, she's disappointed. She knows that there's good in him, but until he realizes that good, she's closing that door on him. And that's everything for Kylo Ren in The Last Jedi, but we still have one movie left to go. This opening is badass. Now, since the Rise of Skywalker barely likes to explain anything, I thought I would establish what the hell is going on. Palpatine sent out a transmission to the entire galaxy warning them all about his imminent return. Why he did this, I have no idea. And you could have heard the transmission if you were playing Fortnite.
I got the wiggle.
Because Kylo Ren is now supreme leader of the galaxy, he is going to seek out anyone that will pose a threat to his empire. And he somehow knew that the Wayfinder was on Mustafar, so that's why he is here. In a behind the scenes clip of Adam Driver, he talked about when he was approached with the role, they wanted to do a reverse Vader.
The thing that JJ said to me when we first met was that I imagine a journey of a character where the opposite of Vader, where Vader starts the most confident, the most experienced, and over the course of 3 films is chipped away till he's his most vulnerable. He had the idea of starting someone at that place and doing almost the exact opposite.
I really like this. We saw how unstable he was in The Force Awakens. In The Last Jedi, he was definitely more confident, and at the beginning of this movie, I think he's at his best.
Now Goldman, you said killing his father broke him. How could he be even more entrenched in the dark side?
Both can be true. Kylo killing his father was definitely something that haunts him. But since then, he has been able to distract himself with different goals to keep that pain away. He killed Snoke, which definitely made him stronger. And he is now Supreme Leader, which is definitely going to keep him distracted. It's not until later on where he breaks. Kylo gets the Wayfinder and heads to Exegol. And boy, does he have the flying skills of both his father and grandfather. I want to take a quick detour and talk about his new helmet. When the first trailer came out, people love to say how this was symbolic of JJ fixing what Ryan did. And that's just nonsense. The reason why he rebuilds his helmet has everything to do with the opening scene. When Kylo arrives on Exegol, he starts to hear Palpatine's voice.
At last, Snoke trained you well.
Palpatine tells Kylo probably the scariest thing he's ever heard in his life.
I made Snoke. I have been every voice you have ever heard inside your head.
I think the movie did a grave injustice to how important this is. One of the main reasons Kylo fell to the dark side was because of these voices in his head. These voices constantly fed his insecurities. When Kylo is talking to Vader's helmet in The Force Awakens, this was definitely Palpatine who was talking to him. Also, Snoke was a huge mentor to Kylo, but not just that, also an abuser. When Kylo killed Snoke, that was him finally defeating his master and becoming the master. Kylo learning that Snoke was just a Palpatine creation basically throws all of what happened in The Last Jedi in his face. You think you just defeated a Sith master? Well, that was just a puppet. Here is the real master. A lot of Kylo's insecurities resurface because of this revelation. Kylo rebuilding his helmet is him regressing back to his old ways from The Force Awakens. Also, he knows he's going to be talking to Rey again. It's not entirely clear whether or not these two have spoken to each other since The Last Jedi, but regardless, Rey also knows Kylo's insecurities. The mask is his way of hiding all of that. I thought that was important to talk about since a lot of people seem to misunderstand why he brought his helmet back.
Kill the girl, end the Jedi, and become what your grandfather Vader could not.
I'll be honest, Palpatine's plan here is pretty confusing. He tells Kylo he wants him to kill Rey so he can be the new Emperor, but later on in the movie he tells Rey he never wanted her dead and that she is the heir to the Sith throne.
I never wanted you dead. I wanted you here, Empress Palpatine.
So what does Palpatine really want? Here's how I see it. Palpatine is a master manipulator. In the beginning, he is telling Kylo what he wants to hear. He even tells Kylo he can surpass Vader.
And become what your grandfather Vader could not.
That was really smart by Palpatine. One of Kylo's insecurities is that he's always wanted to be like Darth Vader. By Palpatine telling Kylo he can accomplish something Vader never could is a great way to get Kylo to do what he wants. I think Palpatine doesn't care which one of Kylo or Rey shows up, he just needs one of them. Plan A is to have Kylo be the heir to the Sith. But Palpatine knows about Kylo's attachments and feelings for Rey, so he knows that Kylo cannot be fully committed to the dark side until he kills Rey. If Kylo is either killed or turned to the light, then plan B is to manipulate Rey. He knows all of Rey's insecurities too, so he can try and manipulate her as well. I understand where the confusion comes from, but it makes sense to me when looking at it like this. I'm gonna skip a few scenes because there's not much to talk about. We know why he rebuilds his mask, and his meeting with the other First Order officers doesn't really reveal anything. So let's move on to Rey and Kylo's first Force Bond scene in this movie. I am not a big fan of the dialogue in this movie. It is nowhere near as great as it is in The Last Jedi, but I do think this scene here is very well written.
Palpatine wants you dead.
So what is accomplished here? Kylo states how Palpatine wants Rey dead, but it is Rey's next line that sets the tone of this conflict.
Serving another master.
She says serving another master? This is kind of a shot at Kylo's ego here. You can't handle being on your own, so you need to go serve someone else. It's a small jab, and Kylo quickly deflects by saying he has other plans.
No. I have other plans.
Looking at their internal goals, these responses make perfect sense. Remember, they each want to turn the other person to their side of the Force. But from The Last Jedi, they know that the other person is not fully committed to their side. Rey has been tempted by the dark side, and Kylo has been tempted by the light side. With these two lines, they both subtly remind each other of their temptations.
You can't hide, Rey. Not from me.
I see through the cracks in your mask. You're haunted. You can't stop saying what you did to your father.
She reminds Kylo that he is still haunted by killing his father. This is another reminder that there is still good in Kylo, and she knows that. However, it's the way that she mentions his mask that is really revealing. Kylo has only taken his mask off for Rey in the entire trilogy without having to be asked. He now wears the mask to try and hide that vulnerability again. She's basically telling him that the mask isn't going to hide the conflict that resides in him.
Do you still count the days since your parents left?
Such pain in you. Such anger.
His next comment is directly attacking Rey's greatest weakness, her insecurities about her parents and herself. Rey reminded Kylo that there was still good in him. Now Kylo is reminding Rey that there is still darkness inside her. However, it is Rey's response that is the highlight for me.
When I offer you my hand again, you'll take it.
We'll see.
Now, I'm not sure if this was intentional or not, but to me this was a callback to the interrogation scene in The Force Awakens.
I'm not giving you anything.
We'll see. You'll take it.
We'll see.
She's basically telling him, good luck with trying to turn me to the dark side. I may have looked too much into this scene, but I just love the Force bonds, and I think this one was done very well. I'll be honest, I have no clue what Kylo is trying to accomplish here. The only thing I can think of is that he's testing Rey, but this is a weird test. Kylo also 100% should have died here.
What?
What's a little unfortunate about this movie is that we got a lot of scenes of Kylo, but a lot of them don't really reveal anything about the character. When he is on Pisana with Rey, all he is doing is testing her. I like how this scene reveals a lot about Rey and her mental instability. Kylo knows he is going to push her, but he definitely didn't expect her to shoot lightning. To him, this is confirmation that Rey is a Palpatine, which I'm not the biggest fan of. Flash forward way later in the movie and we get the next Force bond scene. This scene and the scene where Rey learns about her grandfather serve to accomplish this same thing. Kylo still hasn't given up on trying to turn Rey. By him telling her her backstory and her true lineage, he's hoping this will push her over the edge and join him. My problem here is that if she wasn't going to join Kylo in The Last Jedi, I don't think there's anything Kylo can do or say to get her to join him here. If she's going to fall to the dark side, she's going to do it on her own accord or by the fault of Palpatine. This scene is brilliantly shot, but there isn't much else to it that reveals a lot about Kylo Ren. The same thing with when they're on the Star Destroyer hangar. I want to skip ahead to the Death Star fight because every scene from here on out shows us a lot about Kylo. In this first scene on the throne room, there is one line that Adam Driver delivers so brilliantly that it single-handedly convinced me that he would be redeemed in this movie.
You can't go back to her now. Like I can't.
This line says so much about what Kylo is going through. To me, he is saying he wants to go back and see her, but he is too ashamed to do so. Even though they connected in The Last Jedi, he still thinks she doesn't love him anymore, which is why what happens later is so powerful. He keeps egging Rey on to join the dark side. He is smart. He knows by destroying the Wayfinder she will break, and she does. One of my favorite aspects of this fight is the irony in it. Rey is the Jedi, but she is fighting with rage and anger. Kylo is the supposed Sith, and he is fighting calm and composed. I love the ending to this fight because it proves everything I've said about the Force Awakens fight. When Kylo is physically and emotionally damaged, he can lose to someone who is a novice with a lightsaber. But when he is at full strength, he can beat a much more powerful and well-trained Rey. This proves that had Kylo been his usual self in The Force Awakens, he would have whooped Rey's ass. Just before Kylo is about to strike Rey down, Leia reaches out to Ben. I can't believe it, but there are still people out there who have misinterpreted this moment. The reason Leia reached out to Ben was not to distract him so Rey can win the fight. She reached out to him because she knew that if he killed Rey, he would be lost to the dark side forever. And in that moment, she wanted to stop Ben and let him know she still loves him.
Look, old man, all she says is Ben. How do you know what her intentions are?
Because I don't need things spelled out for me to understand what's going on. Leia still loves her son. Why else would she try to reach out to him? Anyway, Kylo stops and Rey stabs him. Rey notices that Kylo is hurt by Leia's death, so she heals him. Rey healing him is so crucial to Kylo's redemption. This was the same thing Luke did to Vader. It didn't matter what Vader or Palpatine could do, Luke would continue to show unconditional compassion for his father. Rey, even at her lowest, would still show compassion towards Kylo. I like how in The Last Jedi she calls Kylo a murderous snake.
Murderous snake.
Then in the beginning of this movie, she heals a murderous snake, then she heals Kylo. It's a bit of unintentional foreshadowing. Rey leaves and Kylo is forced to ponder his life choices. And then Han shows up. I believe one of the worst criticisms of this movie is that Kylo was redeemed because he just forgave himself. Sure, technically he did that, but what happened is so much more powerful than that. I want to play a clip from the brilliant YouTube channel Cinema Therapy because I think they do a fantastic job at explaining why this scene is so powerful.
So Ben does something in Rise of Skywalker that's actually a real therapeutic exercise. He talks to someone who isn't there. So why talk to him? Simply put, because there are things that need to be said. Ben needs to take accountability for his past actions. He needs to be responsible. He needs to express love. And even though his father is no longer there, Ben can still benefit from the conversation. Mostly, he wants a do-over of his last conversation with his father. That seems to be his biggest regret.
So in his imagination, Ben gets to relive those final moments with his father and do it right.
He also gets the cathartic release of all these repressed emotions. He turns back to the light. It helps him to heal. Kylo Ren is gone and only Ben remains.
Wonderfully said, guys. Kylo reliving this moment allows him to make the right choice, and thus he is now brought back to the light side. He couldn't get rid of the love he has for his family, proving once again that love will always beat hate. This scene is just textbook George Lucas Star Wars, and it is definitely the best scene in the movie. A good chunk of the movie passes by before we see him on Exegol. I know it's not uncommon to say this, but just the mannerisms of Ben Solo versus Kylo Ren makes this scene so much fun. Again, another example of the brilliance of Adam Driver. When talking about this scene, I love what Adam Driver has to say.
Before, there's someone who has the absence of hope, and the thing that we started with for who is Ben then is someone who has hope. There's no more ambiguity about what it is that he has to do. There's no more seesaw that's happening. For the first time, someone who's never had the answer now finally knows his purpose or destiny. He has to let her know that they're together. But I don't know that he entirely is sure what's going to happen from there. Nor do I think he cares. I think it's so long as he's with her, he's on the right path.
Rey was so close to striking down Palpatine, but when Ben arrived, she gained hope, and the two of them would face Palpatine together. Rey defeats Palpatine, and now we're at Ben Solo's last scene. I've always had conflicted feelings about this scene. There is nothing more I would have wanted than Ben Solo to survive and make amends for everything that he has done. But the scene that we got is so powerful that I can't help but not love it. Ben finds Rey dead and looks panicked. Then he holds her and realizes what he must do. This is just my explanation because the movie doesn't really explain it. I think the only reason he was able to bring Rey back to life was because of their bond. Anakin once tried to cheat death by turning to the dark side and promised Padme he would learn to stop people from dying. But as Ben once declared, he would finish what Anakin started.
And I will finish what you started.
Ben proved that the way to save a life isn't through the selfish dark path, but the selfless light path. Ben Solo gave his life so Rey could live, bringing the entire Skywalker saga full circle. They kiss and share one last moment before he dies. Should Ben have shown up on Tatooine as a ghost? Probably, but that wasn't a big problem for me. And that's it. That is everything about Kylo Ren / Ben Solo in the Star Wars sequel trilogy. Thank you everyone so much for watching another one of my videos. Don't forget to hit the Claude Squad, and I will see you guys next time.